What is up, everybody? Let me show you what we're going to go ahead and make today. So as we can see right here, we can take this little document, move it around, no big deal. But if we put it near the center somewhere in this delete section, several things are happening here clearly. This button shows up and we will click yes, delete it. We have a Lottie animation and all this happens and goes back. Now, in order to achieve something like this, you would have to typically use, actual code like JavaScript and stuff. But Protopie allows designers to basically create complex animation sequences and micro interactions and prototyping without having to code anything. So that's what Protopie is, and that's what I'm going to be introducing today here on the channel, and also expect more Protopie tutorials coming in the future. Now, as always, make sure to subscribe and let's get started. Now, chances are if you're watching this video, you probably want to be a better designer. And if that's the case, how much do you really want it? Because at DesignCourse.com, I've created a UI UX course that will help you go from designing layouts that I might rate a 4 or 5 up to 8 and beyond. But more important than that, as a better designer, this means that you can land higher paying clients and jobs. This course includes over 16 hours of video, 40 interactive UI design tests, and even mentorship where I personally take a look at your work that you submit, I review it, and many times I also revise it, providing you with great feedback to help you become a better designer. Now, for this video, I want you to use the coupon code UI2022, and that will give you 22% off at checkout. All right, so the very first step is we have a brand new document open up here in Figma, and we're going to design for, if we choose the frame tool, just an iPhone 13 Pro Max, and we'll go ahead and change the background color here. I think we'll do something like just a light blue, and in order to get that contrast against this canvas background, we'll just make this dark. All right, so we're gonna have, if I right click, install the plugin called Iconify, and it just allows you to quickly search for different types of icons. So for the first one that we're gonna use, I say it's gonna be this trash icon. We're gonna use that in a bit, and then we're also gonna have another one for a document, and then we'll just throw that in as well. Okay, so for the document, this is a pretty good size. I'm gonna make it maybe slightly larger. And then I'm going to take the type tool, hitting T on the keyboard, and we'll just say my doc 001.pdf, whatever. And then we'll increase that to around 16. And I'm just gonna leave it on the default Roboto or Roboto, however you pronounce that, text. All right, so we're gonna take both of these after creating those and hit Control G, and we'll just call this here document. Now, the reason I'm grouping them up is because once we get into Protopie, I want to be able to select just everything here and just be able to drag it collectively like this. So we'll leave it like right around here. And then we're going to have an overall container. So we'll hit R for the rectangle tool, and we'll just drag out something right around here. I think maybe we'll pull this out just a bit. There we go. And we're going to make this one white. And then we'll use our bracket key to put that to the back essentially. Now, for this little trash icon, we're just going to keep this here pretty much centered. I think we're also going to take the pass-through and maybe just change it to around 40 or so. I think that works fine. And we'll give these a little bit of rounded corners here. All right, and so far we're doing pretty good. After that, we have to design for the state afterwards, after this gets dropped here to the middle, which will show a confirm button, like do you really want to delete this thing? So we'll take our type tool. Are you sure you want to delete this file? Something like that. We'll make it bold and center it pretty much, although we could use our center up here. And then let's also take both of these. I'm going to temporarily group it just so I can center things up. Now I'm going to ungroup it like that. All right, so now we're rocking, and then we're gonna have another button essentially right around here. Oh, I thought that was the rectangle tool. Let's just left click and say yes, delete the file. All right, and then we'll give it a button background container with R. So drag out here. We're just about done with this, by the way. And we'll make this red. Yeah, right around there. E3000, or wait, 30,000. There we go. We'll make this here white for the text. And we'll give this a little bit of border radius as well. All right, I may make this 14. All right, I'm being too anal about the design. Now we're gonna hit Control G with this as well for this button, and we'll just call this delete. And then this whole section will be grouped up as well, this title and this button, Control G. And we'll just call this you sure. All right, so you sure, no spaces, whatever. All right, so by default, this is all gonna be hidden. And I think that's good here. So just a quick little, experimentation. It's not like the greatest design ever, but I didn't really want to focus too much on design alone. I just wanted to kind of demonstrate Protopie. So now at this point, we're gonna choose our frame. We're gonna right click. Now you have to install first before you do this Protopie. And then once you've created your account, you'll be able to do that. Let's export. It's gonna load up Protopie here. All right, there it is. Now, why is it off the screen? Well, it's because this is based on an iPhone 13, but by default, they have up here iPhone 12 Pro Max. Let's hit OK. There we go. So that's a lot more close based on what we had. You can always take everything and just kind of move it over, and that works fine just as well. Okay, so like I said, by default, we want to hide this. Yes, delete this file, that whole you sure section. So we're just gonna take the opacity and just put it to 0 over here. All right, next up, what we wanna do is add a trigger essentially. And this is, the primary section you're gonna be working in for the most part. Now, of course, if we look at the UI, there's a lot of other things that we have. Like you can put media in, like Lottie animations, video, audio, camera. We're gonna be using Lottie for one example. We also have shapes that you can draw. So it is sort of a design tool as well. Text, containers, components. But really the meat and bones of this app is gonna be over here in this section. All right, so the first thing we wanna do is get this so that we can drag it around when we're previewing the prototype. So to do that, we simply add a trigger. And as you can see, there's a lot of triggers here compared to, something like Adobe XD or Figma itself. Ours is going to be a drag. All right. So the way this works is there's a trigger, which is an action, dragging or tapping, pressing, like letting go. These are all actions. But then you have what are called responses, what happens in response to the action. And so that's right here under this little plus icon. Now, depending on the type of action you choose, some of the elements are not available for you to, adjust. This one's probably the most limited. So let's just choose move because we want this to move in response to the drag. So we're going to choose move, and we have to choose, by default, it has selected document, and that's exactly what we want to move. That's the group that we created. So we have some other options over here like direction, if you only want it to move up and down or right and left or both right here, which is what we want. And everything else here looks good. So now if we were to go to hit preview, we can move this around now. All right, so now the next step is going to be when we actually release the button, what's gonna happen? We kind of wanted to get this centered and also hide this little trash icon. All right, so what we'll do is we're gonna add another trigger, and that is gonna be a touch up. So that means when you're dragging it and you release, that's a touch up. All right, so touch up, you wanna make sure you absolutely remember this. When you add the touch up or some of these other triggers, you make sure you have the layer selected up here. Because right now it says select layer and nothing works. I went through that myself. I'm like, why doesn't this work? Well, I realized there was no layer selected. So it's touch up on what? The document itself, because that's what we're going to be dragging, right? So we choose document. You can also choose number of fingers, which is cool as well. Now the response that we want here is we want to move it. So what's kind of cool is like if we drop it and put a touch up anywhere in this area, we're going to move it automatically to the center of this container here. So that's the whole approach. So in order to do that, there's a few things that we have to do. First, we have to add a condition. And so condition, if you look over here as a response, is at the very bottom. So we are going to move this up above it, or move this down rather, underneath here. There we go. So this means having a condition in the middle here, or the first actual response is the condition. Anything underneath it will not activate essentially unless this here the conditions that we specify are satisfied. So when we drop this or move this around, we don't want anything to happen if we do a press up outside of this box. They have to actually drag it inside of this box. So that's going to be the condition that we have to set up programmatically. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to first take a look at our rectangle 1. And we're going to do this based on XY values. So currently the position of this little rectangle is on the X value 40. All right. Now, if we move this little origin point over here to the right, the other X value is 380. So 40 and 380 are going to be the first two values we specify. We're also going to do this on the Y axis. So we go ahead and choose our condition, and then we say our document X. Now here's X, Y, width. We can have all these other things. We're just looking at the X for now. The document X starting position has to be greater than or equal to 40. All right. And then we have another condition where we choose our document. All right. And the X has to be less than or equal to 380. I think it was 380. I'm going to have to go back and click on that just to be sure. Yeah, 40 and 380. Great. Now we're going to do the same thing on the Y value. So the Y value starting off at the top is 323. And at the bottom, if we click down here, it is 550. So 323 and 550. See if I can remember that. 323 and 550. So we hit add. We choose Y. Greater than 323. And then also Y right here, and less than 323 and I already forgot it. It's tough trying to record and remember all this stuff. So let's click this and we'll choose down 550. That's right. Okay, so 550 down here. All right, so now let's give this a shot. My luck, it won't work. And it is not working. Why is it not working? All right, the one area I forgot is right here, X and Y. We have to move to X and Y, and they're empty. So that's why it wasn't working. Not thinking. So we want to find the center of this. So we put the origin point to the center, and then we look at this value right here. It's 210 by 436.5. All right, so 210 by 436.5. All right, so let's try that now. So if we drop this anywhere here, up, and it's not going right to the center. That's because we have to take this and change its origin point to the center as well. So now we hit preview, drag it over, and there we go. Now we also want to take and add an opacity response to hide that trash icon as well. So we choose plus, we choose opacity, and we take our trash icon and we change the opacity to 0. So let's go ahead and hit preview. Awesome. Now let's also make the stroke around here turn red. All right. So we can add another one called border. And we're going to, the layer that we're going to select is going to be our rectangle 1. That should be renamed a bin or something like that, but I'm lazy. And then we'll just change this to like a red color. And the fill is just going to be 100. And we'll make the width about 2. All right, so let's try this. Hit run. There we go. Very cool. Now, of course, we can move it back out, but if we lose it up here, put it anywhere nearer, it's going to go straight to the middle. By the way, we need to make this editable right here, because notice that stroke, it didn't have the border radius on it. That's because we need to make it editable when we select this element. So that's what happens a lot of times when you have native elements created in like Figma. In order to really unlock all the other features, we have to choose make editable. Unfortunately, that moves it off to the side and we lose our original position. So if we move back, we're probably going to be not in the same spot again. And so what I'm going to do is just to make sure our X and Y values match up with our condition, this X value needs to be 40, and then the Y value needs to be 323. All right, so now you just have to change the origin point to the original origin point and then put 40 and 323, and now it's set up correctly. So if I hit preview, Drop it in. Now we have the nice border radius angles and all that stuff. So now what we want to do is also add the opacity to make this show up as well. So that's the final response that we'll add is opacity right here. And then we'll go ahead and choose the layer use sure and change the opacity to 100. All right, so that should conclude this portion of this drag right there. Now we have to make something happen when we click yes, delete the file. All right, so now at this point, we're going to add a simple click trigger, so our tap trigger. So on tap, we want this to happen onto the right here. Let's see, delete right here. So that's the group for the delete button itself. And then in response, well, what do we want to happen? Actually, a number of things. All right, so first, we're going to add probably a bunch of opacity triggers because we're going to hide a number of things. So the first thing that we're going to hide is going to be our trash icon. So we'll just change this to 0. So now let's see what happens when we preview that. So we'll take this down here and then click that. Oh, it's already hidden. I forgot about that. So what we can do instead of that is just change this to our rectangle 1. We're going to hide this background. All right, so that's the first thing that'll happen. So drag this here and delete. There it goes. So now it's been hidden. We can also hide this my document. So we'll go ahead and copy this and paste. So you can actually copy and paste your responses. And so in this one, we're just going to change this here to our document right here. All right, so now hit preview, drop that in. They both disappear. Now, also, we want to have a Lottie animation of a trash can. So in order to get that up, let's go ahead and go here to lottiefiles.com. And we're just going to search for trash. And under trash, so that's strange. For some reason, it is not showing any of the free listings right here. So I don't know if there's an issue with the site, but if you go over here to Figma and you right click and open the Lottie Files plugin, so you'd have to install that as well. We can do the search here instead. So if I just type in trash, we'll find this one, and then we can open the animation, which brings us to the actual website. So this is the one I want to use when somebody clicks that button. We're going to have this Lottie animation play. So in order to get this working, we're just going to take the Lottie JSON file, download that, and I'm going to show in folder here, move this off to the side, and then when we come back to our Protopie, we're going to take media. We're going to choose Lottie. Now Lottie's going to go ahead and open up our browser. And at this point, we're going to, oh, there it is. It's very tiny. We're going to take this and increase the size. Now, for some reason, like if we hit preview, we can see how clear it looks. For some reason in the preview down here, it's very pixelated and strange looking. Don't worry about that. That is okay. So we're gonna make it around this size, and by default is the actual opacity will be hidden. So we want to take our opacity by default after selecting it into properties here and just put 0. All right, so that is right there. We can just call this Lottie Trash. Add an H at the end, Gary. Here we go. All right. Now, after this, so we have this kind of sequence animation that's occurring here. We want to bring the opacity back. So we'll just copy that and we'll choose our Lottie Trash and put that to 100. We're also going to scale it up as well. So to do that, we're going to create a scale and we're going to choose Lottie Trash, which already has been. And we're going to change this scale by factor. So we're going to change, we're going to make it 130 by 130. So we're increasing it by like a 30% or so. So let's see what happens now if we hit preview. We'll drop this in, delete it. Notice how fast that was. Now it didn't play either though. So we have to add another one called playback. All right, so Lottie Trash, action is play. Let's try it again. Bring it down here. There we go. Awesome. And now what we want to do is kind of create, utilize the timeline right here, which we haven't yet, in order to create kind of like a sequence animation. Because we want to bring this back right here and also hide this section down here. So what we'll do is add another opacity. We'll just drag this at the bottom here to keep things in order. And maybe we'll put it right around here. And we want to take our rectangle 1 and bring that opacity back to 100. So let's just see how that works and looks so far right there. Delete it. All right. We could probably stand to push this out and make this occur a little bit further. All right, so let's try that again. All right, there we go, perfect. And at the same time, this is coming in, this right here, this background, we're also gonna take the trash icon and move that out and hide it. So we'll copy that and we'll select our, what was that called? That was our Lottie trash, and we'll change that to 0. So let's play this again. Nice. We also want to change the border. So we're going to add the border here. Take the border back to nothing essentially. So we'll just take this down. The fill is empty. And let's see if that works. So our border, if you choose Shift and your scroll wheel and go up, you can get back to the beginning. And the border will be changed as well. So now let's do this. There we go. Awesome. One final thing is just to hide that section down there as well, the button. So to do that, we take opacity, we'll duplicate that, and we'll also choose You Sure and change that to 0. Hit preview. There we go. Oh, we also have to do one more thing. I'm sorry. We'll take our opacity. We have to bring our trash can back as well. Maybe we make this one start a little bit off just right here. We'll choose our trash and bring that up to 100. Preview. Bring it back. Hit yes. There we go. Awesome, awesome, awesome stuff. One last time, we will take a look at this thing. Hit run. There we go. All right, hopefully you enjoyed that and you learned something new. If so, let me know in the comments. Like I said at the beginning of the video, expect more Protopie tutorials going forward because I really think they go hand in hand. First, you can understand design and executing the design in something like Figma, and then using a really, a robust animation prototyping tool like Protopie, I think would be a logical next step as well in your development as a designer. So as always, make sure to subscribe, check out DesignCourse.com, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.